end of the week. I took yesterday off, and today is a day off from work too. Probably go hang out with the family later, but to start the day, I'm gonna do some messing around. So something to look for next week. When I'm going live, should be arriving tomorrow. I have a Annihilation Barge and a Triox Stalker that I'm doing for the Miniac 2020 Nova Open Charity Foundation charity armies. Miniac of YouTube fame is doing 4 donation armies, and I'm helping with the Necrons. Gonna be painting those 2 up, and the scheme uses some very basic black and white contrast in the scheme, and I've never messed with the contrast paints. I've never experimented with them yet, so I picked up a handful. I've got the rest coming with one of those models, and I figured I've got a day before everything arrives. I'm gonna do some experimenting. So I've got this random repulsor that was prime silver. I don't know when ago. I'm gonna mess with, like, because I think, at least in my head, what contrast paints do really well are things with texture and depth. But the Necrons are a lot of flat panels and things, so I want to experiment on something with a lot of flat panels and things to see how that goes, to see what sort of pre-shading I might want to do, or like pre-washing, what have you. So I'm gonna mess with that a little bit, and we're gonna see how these contrast paints do, and just mess around with them, honestly. So the contrast paints I picked up the medium because I've been told that you want the medium. Picked up Skeleton Horde, which is like a bone, Blood Angels red, and Gilliman Flesh, in case I wanted to do some faces. I kind of wish I'd also picked up the Flesh Terrors red, just to experiment with like those 2 different colors of red, see if I need a little more depth. But I think I'm gonna start out with experiment. And I didn't even do my spiel this morning because I'm excited. I want to get right into this. So one of the first experiments I want to do is some pre-shading, so that I want to start the pre-shading so that those can dry, and then I'll just do like a flat panel and see how it looks. But I want to get a couple greens and browns and blacks and do different panels in those. I know I have like a green wash. There we go. Got some camo shade, Gnome oil, Oh, there's my other green. So I got 2 different greens that I'm going to mess with. So this is one of my secret hacks that I haven't used in a long time. But for pre-shading, for red, if you actually use green, it will force the red to be a very dark color. Red just doesn't cover that green very well, and it's going to let it shine through. So I'm going to experiment with that. I'm going to experiment just with like a null oil, so just creating kind of a lighter, darker situation, and see how that comes across as well. But let's begin some experimentation. I'm also picking this because it's nice big flat panels that I can clean up and redo later if I want, and I'd probably just do this like with an airbrush later. On that, I'm actually gonna mess with yeah, I almost just want to get some plastic card, but it's really hard to see. Anyway, so I think I'm gonna use like these little random squares just to, those are too small though. I want something kind of bigger. Let's just pick some spots. So first up, we're gonna use the camo shade. So this is kind of a muted green. Good morning. Welcome, whoever is hanging out and joining. So let's try the camo shade here. The various door panels. So I'm just going to take this. So the camo shade is almost like a greenish brown. There's brown elements and green elements there. And we're going to kind of pool it in the back bottom corner of our panels. So that's where our pre-shade is going to be. And so I'm doing a technique where essentially every panel is going to have this effect. So we're not going to do across all of them like a consistent gradient. And what it does is, this is actually an airbrushing technique where you kind of create a gradient for every single panel, and that helps with creating motion across the model. I'm doing like the bottom third or so of each panel and trying to pull that down, going almost but not quite like corner to corner. Good morning. Still in the 80s. Yep. And then I do want to hit these recesses. Very carefully try to hit those recesses. So the thought here is putting this little shade down will help the contrast create some depth in, and then I'm just going to kind of wipe a little bit. I don't want to come back, but trying to make sure it's concentrated more in the corner, and then we have a nice little gradient. I'm actually going to head off. So coming in with almost a dry brush. So being a GW wash, this is staining, but looking to pull the staining away from the front. Doing a quick recess wash as well. This is our Athonian Camo Shade panel. I'll give that a good 5-10 minutes at least to dry off. And then we will check out the next one. Next one, we'll just do a Nuln Oil. I'm gonna go for this little front corner panel here. Recess. So this one, we're just kind of doing a very, I guess, almost traditional, like pre-shade of that you would have like black and white. So cleaned off the brush a little. I'm just trying to fade that wash into that corner. And that'll be good for that one. And then I want to do one more green. And then we'll go ahead and start with just hitting these with regular contrast kind of all by itself and see how we can mess with it. Because again, this is all experimentation. I have not messed with these paints at all. So this one is a BL tan green. So this is much more of like a pure green. A greens green here. Let's go ahead. I'm just gonna do these 4 little spots here. So a little smaller than the other 2 sections, but I think will work. This is a much brighter green. We're going to be messing with. Again, the camo shade is almost like this dingy brown green. And this one's much more kind of bright and Crayola color green. But it is a wash, so it is fairly subtle. And the idea here is that we're gonna pre-shade with it so that our red that comes in is going to show up darker. So I'm going to do a nice recess wash around these lines as well. So we've got the green, a true green, our camo shade, which dried a little splotchy there. I think I'm gonna hit that camo shade again. Wow. I'm dropping a lot of frames right now. Hey, maybe. All right, I think we're back. Stop dropping frames and things, so I think we're back. Fingers crossed. Yeah, just having kind of a crazy rainstorm here, so. I was also connected to the router downstairs apparently instead of the one upstairs. So, the one upstairs is right over there. Should be a better connection now. Alrighty. So, again, more than one. Trying out new paints. Yes. Try out these contrasts. Yeah, spottiest. I have more than one. I actually have 3. And they're all actually like cellular hotspots, and I pay a boatload a month for every one of them, but they have a data limit, which is why I have 3 of them. So I have 2 of them set up, and then when the first one hits its data cap, I turn it off for the month and plug in the third one, and I still end up paying like another third again of my total bill Yeah. I live on a mountain, so my options are this. I had satellite, which was effing garbage. I don't know why I said effing. It was fucking garbage. It was terrible. Dealt with that for 2 years. Every month, because that had a data, it didn't have a data cap, but they would throttle you once you hit a certain amount, which we hit in like 10 days out of 30. And I had the highest, fastest plan I could get. And we would hit that, and if there was a remote amount of rain like today or anything, it would just dead. No connection whatsoever. And I would complain to them. I'm like, throttling does not equal off. Throttling should not equal off. And it did. It wasn't until 2 years later I say, okay, I quit, I'm done. Like, cut the cord, and they're like, oh, your satellite's not aligned correctly. I could send someone out for free to fix it. I'm like, bitch, I complained every month for a year. I gave up the second year, but I complained every month for a year that my connection was shit, and you told me everything was fine. With my setup, it was just because I'm throttled, not I'm over my data cap. So my other option is DSL. Fucking technology that I had, like, was good 15 years ago. Speeds that were 15 years ago. So, yeah, I pay a ridiculous amount to have hotspots in my house because it's the only connection. Oh, and my cellular service, which was through Verizon, used to be pretty good, and then like 2 months ago, it's just shit. And I called them up, and I was like, what the hell happened? I literally can't even like load a web page like midday. In the early morning and evening, I can use my data, but midday I like can't even pull up like websites. Like super basic text websites won't even load. And I was like, what the hell? And they're like, well, you know, maybe we changed what towers we were using. I was like, well, can you check? And I was like, no. Cool story. So, anyway, let's try this. So we got the Blood Angels Red, and we're just gonna go straight out of the pot here. So let's just hit this panel. Wow, that is a thick, interesting glaze. So I think my pre-shade might not even be like strong enough, particularly this camo shade. I feel like this camo shade is not strong enough to stand up to this glaze here. A little concerned about how the brush strokes are gonna look, but at least I live on a mountain. Never guess what you're working on. Let's say Space Marines. Molotov. The greater good, sir. I'm curious how this is going to level out. Like, I can see very obvious brush strokes here. And not... So this coat, anyway, I didn't use the contrast medium. I do have that handy. So I can see a slight difference, very slight difference with that camo shade pre-shading, but probably not enough to warrant doing it. So I'm going to bring over a pot here. I'll go 3 to 1. I'm going to do 3 brush loads of the contrast. And then we're going to get a nice brush load of the medium. And see how that works just kind of by itself. You painted yourself. Self-portrait? Mix those two together. See how that looks and feels. And I'm going to go ahead and move over here and hit these panels. Way too much. Way too much on my brush there. Let's try over here doing much thinner coat. Over the BL tan green and just the outside panel of it as well. And this is over a silver base coat, I should add, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, sorry. I was being a little facetious. I knew what you meant, but sarcasm isn't always obvious. Particularly when you then get distracted by putting way too much contrast paint on something. And we're just doing a little bit of the Blood Angel Red. Size and secondary, yeah. That wasn't very nice, I apologize. Wash incident. If you have to explain comedy, it wasn't comedy. Well, largely. here's where I really had my concerns, is just how difficult is it going to be to get nice even coats on fairly large flat surfaces. And I feel like I definitely need to go heavier on the contrast medium as a first step as I'm painting this, because I just feel like it dries too fast to not show up, like, because I did this section and then I painted it, and you can see just seems very, very clear where I have an overlap. And this stuff dries really fast too. Like, consistency wise, it actually reminds me of like Blood for the Blood God. I mean, I'm curious how it will differ painting over like white or bone base coats, or gray, and that will be more experiments that we do. But for right now, the Necron scheme that I'm going to be attempting, it's over silver. I had this already painted silver, so I figured it'd be a nice starting place. We'll see how that dries. Right now it's still wet in spots, adding a lot to the streakiness. But I feel like I can see a lot of streakiness on that door. Painting a clockwork dragon. That sounds cool. Are you actually, or is that your sarcasm? Because I just assumed you were working on Tau. Doing both. Ah, cool. Have to respond to a work roll call. To tell them I'm not working today. Needs a lot more thinner to try to get even coats, I think. I think my concern with contrast is just that it's not the greatest for like big flat panels. But I'm gonna try not to have a self-confirming action there. Mirmorm Banshees. Some of those night haunts. Yeah. Fair enough. Just doing some experimentation. I am okay with that. I approve. try getting a big wad of the contrast medium onto my little palette here, and then add a little more of my color. So you're right, I never would have guessed that you were working on a Clockwork Dragon. It's awesome. So now we're gonna... So this is gonna be a little closer to like a 50-50. I think I did a 1-3 before. Going almost 50-50 here. See how that feels control-wise. First, we'll see how that looks as a second coat. And this is kind of the one of the hardest parts about flat spots is like if you do a coat that's too thin or too thick, so you can see your brush strokes, and then you try to correct that and do a thinner coat, it doesn't cover the fact that you had brush strokes underneath it all the time. It's like there's these brush strokes that aren't in this coat that I can still see through it because I thinned it so much. So I do feel like this one's gonna coat a lot better and evenly. So let's try over here. It's going to be a lot more forgiving. It's more transparent because it's, again, like 50-50, the medium. But I think it's going to be more forgiving in that it gives me a little longer to move the paint around and self-level a little, maybe. Maybe. Definitely patchy. And I need more contrast to medium. Too much medium this time. Okay, if we just go real thin, starts becoming a lot better at self-leveling. Those brush strokes aren't showing up quite as much. Picked up a bit of medium as well. Yeah, you can really experiment with kind of consistency and make your own washes. Something I like messing with actually is kind of turning a paint almost into a wash so that I can get the exact shade of wash I want. Yeah, so this is too thin, I think. So it's a lot better at self-leveling. And what I mean by that is when you have a brush stroke and you get that concentration and lack of paint from the hairs of the brush, it's thin enough that it's gonna kind of just float back together. So it's self-leveling. It clears out your own brush strokes, which is really what you want, and it's the whole reason for the too thin coats philosophy. It's particularly important on big flat surfaces like on this tank, because those brush strokes show up so clearly when you don't have something that's self-leveling, when your paint's too thick. You can really see the brush strokes. So this is definitely, I'm not happy with any of these panels. In terms of how the contrast covers or doesn't cover the shade underneath it, I feel like the green works really well, and the Nuln Oil works, but it was really strong. Camo shade didn't work nearly as well, but I think that's kind of to be expected. There's so much brown to that it starts leaning into the green or the red realm. This is gonna be interesting, because in case y'all missed the reason for my experimentation here, I'm going to be doing the Necrons, 2 big Necron models for a charity army here in the coming weeks, and the scheme uses white over white, so that one shouldn't be too bad, and then black over silver as contrast medium. But they're big flat panels because they're on an Annihilation barge and a Triox Stalker. So kind of my experiment here is to really test, just kind of try to get familiar with how they work, how the contrast paints work, and try to get comfortable with that before I put them on a model that we're going to be giving away for charity. And other part of this experiment, so I got a little bit on this other panel. Let me see if I can't, oh, it lets me clean up. Use a clean, slightly damp brush and try to pull out that overbrush. Just trying to clean that up. It's not working. Not cooperating. I'm just smearing it around even more. Yes, contrast is a particular line of paints, and they kind of advertised it as one good coat sort of thing, one and done method of painting. The idea being it's essentially like a wash, that there's a degree of transparency to it, and you can just paint it straight over a white base coat and it's going to pool in the recesses and be thin enough in the highlights that it kind of self-highlights, essentially. So you can just block in your colors with contrast paint and it's going to look like it has depth and be great. That's the idea with contrast. Again, I don't know that it has, that application doesn't work as well on flat panels, but the models I'm going to be painting have lots of flat panels. I think it's going to work a lot better with more dynamic models and textures rather than flat panels. Flat panels, I think you need to be doing some other work on it. From what I've seen, there's also a degree of like, you want to be, it's almost a different, a flipped way of painting. So instead of painting kind of shadow to highlight, you almost paint backwards. You do highlight to shadow. So again, I wish I picked up the other red, but I might be misremembering or misheard the guy. I got these 4 yesterday. 3 contrast paints in the contrast medium, and I believe he said it was $35. The guy at the store that I picked it up at. I just kind of like bought them, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I was walking out, and I was like, wait, did he say $35 for 4 paints? Oh my god. So I might be misremembering it, but yeah, sounds about right. They're not cheap because they come in the bigger bottles, and so they're probably like $7 a piece. But yeah, don't know what you're gonna paint your Tau. No ideas at all, Spottiest. No inclinations. Tau really you can do anything with them. I think my biggest bit of advice is just get it's driving me mad. I know the feeling. My biggest advice for all those lines and things, I think I told you my hobby hack for it. But so very basically, you paint it one color. So I did a Tau scheme in this really cool blues for somebody. So the majority of it was magic blue. This is just a super bright blue. And then I have an electric blue, which is this is like Crayola cerulean, the bluest of the blues. And then this is a bright electric blue. So I use this for the edge highlights. And my hobby hack is wherever you have these little line panel things. So you paint the whole thing blue. So you paint the whole thing in this. You go through and just drag your brush along all these crevices with the electric blue. And it's going to hit all the edges. Then hit it with a gloss varnish. Just pick up some gloss varnish from somewhere. You can get brush on stuff that works just as well. I don't know the availability of testers, but if you want to go rattle can, they have spray lacquer. So this is dull coat. It's got a fogged cap, and then they also have gloss coat, which has a clear cap. Get one of each. Maybe get 2 dull coat because you're going to use it more. Hit it with a gloss varnish, and then go in with a wash. Secret Weapon makes a really great one, but I don't know how available they are where you're at. Soft body black. They also have heavy body black. I'd go heavy body black. I just don't have any. I'm out. I need to get more. Hit with heavy body black along those recesses. Anywhere you hit the raised edge, you just wipe it off with your finger, like straight up. Just put your finger across it. It'll pick it up because of that gloss varnish. But it'll pool in the recess and it'll be almost black in that recess line. And create some really crisp edge highlights without a whole lot of effort. That's my hobby hack for tau. Alternatively, you do kind of like the Tron look, where those recesses are the brightest portion, and then it almost becomes even easier because you're just tracing those in increasingly bright colors, preferably in like a little bit of a contrasting color. So do kind of like a neutral, a black, not white. I wouldn't suggest doing white. You could do black, or like a light gray, a beige, a sand, even a brown. And then you do some fun bright color in those recesses and bring it up to in the corners to be a brighter version of that. So do like an orange and then almost yellow to white in all the corners and angles. And that's a really cool like Tron electronic look. I'm sure I'm not helping. I'm just giving you more and more ideas. So at some point you just have to go screw it and put paint on something. So I would suggest checking out Miniac, who I'm doing the charity army for. Miniac has a video recently. It's like stop using contrast theory like a noob, or color theory like a noob, or a goober or something. And so he talks about referencing color theory, which is if you have a lot of red, you want some green to accent it. And it says too often people take this super literally, and it makes your models kind of look like a sports team in his mind. A more realistic version is using tones of your contrast color. And so he paints up a skeleton with a lot of purple and then just tones of yellow in like the bone to create some accent. So that's something to consider, to not go too far into the like, alright, I'm going to paint these purple, and then according to color wheel I need to paint yellow, and it looks like LSU sports team, LA Lakers, right? Of course I can't say anything because I think this looks gorgeous, and that's red and green, which are contrasting colors. Alright. So I also have another contrast color, Skeleton Horde. I kind of just want to mess with this around this panel and door here. And I wasn't super neat with the red, so I'm curious how bad and how annoying it's going to be to touch it up. Again, I'm not happy with any of this, so I'm going to be spraying over it when I eventually actually paint it. So Skeleton Horde, let's look at what this color looks like. I think this is supposed to come out as a kind of a bone. I think this is one that definitely needs to be over a white. Yeah. I think my other issue with this contrast method is just going to be this, that you have to be super neat, and I am not the neatest. So this one's straight out of the pot, and it doesn't cover the red at all. So then that becomes something that's like, alright, I gotta touch that up with white, or whatever base color that I'm painting this over. Man. I'm going to paint that part white, and we'll see how that looks. Right. So, no matter how good someone's models looks, there's times when they look like shit like this. I know I'm barely using any contrast for this, but why I'm a little scared and intimidated that I'm painting these up for a charity army. Not this, but the Stalker and the Annihilation Barge. And there's elements of it that I feel pretty clueless on. Which is why I'm having today to flail in my cluelessness. So hopefully when I start working on the models themselves, I feel a lot more in control. I won't lie though, I was no such thing, man. No such thing as sad. You put paint on it, you are doing well. There is nothing wrong with like just putting colors on it and calling it. Nothing wrong at all. And I would say as a random bit of advice, just using something like a wash. So depending on what color you go with, or colors you go with, block in your different panels, whatever colors you want. Hit it with Agrax Earthshade or Nuln Oil, or maybe a different color depending on, again, what colors you're using. Hit it with a nice little shade of that, and you're done. And adding that step of adding a wash will add so much depth. And it's nice and fairly quick and easy. Plan on naming the planet they come from? Well, that's totally fair. I think their planet should have a name to it. So, yeah, they sent out an email the other day. So I had volunteered for the Annihilation Barge. I'm going to grab these models while I tell the story. Not the actual ones, but ones I have. So I'd already volunteered to paint the Annihilation, or the Annihilation Barge. And they sent out an email saying, hey, we need one more person to volunteer to paint one more model. This model was being hard to get a hold of because it was out of stock in GW. But it's the Canoptic or the Triox Stalker. Can anyone take it? Can anyone paint it? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll paint it. I'm already doing the Annihilation Barge. Mach 2 out at the same time. Not a problem. And then I started looking on Instagram, searching the hashtags that are associated with the charity army, and someone's already doing a Stalker, like another one. And I was like, I was just looking at his progress, and I was like, man, this is a lot more detailed than I remembered. In part because my Necrons are spray painted like bone with a fade, and that's pretty much it. A little bit of blue glow. Call it a day. So I got Annihilation Barge. So scheme is you do the whole thing in silver, and then a lot of these armor panels are going to be black. So over the contrast silver, but then for like the generic guys, these shoulder pads will be white, but then like the armor on the arms will be black. And you get some Tesseract green glow. But yeah, I'm a little nervous because I've got like 3 weeks by the time I get the models to assemble them and paint them. So that's just the Annihilation Barge, and then the Stalker's even bigger. I'm thinking this panel here is white, and then like all these are black, all this is black. And I had the idea of magnetizing. I don't even know if you need to magnetize the guns, but painting all the guns, because you can the guns just kind of pop in there. For this guy, maybe magnetize the gun, because there's 2 different options for the underside. Yeah, I'm a little intimidated now. I won't lie. I'm a little scared of... So this is all going to be black here. Thinking this will be the white panel. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I might end up having a couple days where I do a lot more painting than I want to do, because I need to get these done by mid-October, and that's only 3 weeks away. And models should be arriving tomorrow. And like, it's gonna take me 2 days to just assemble them, do sub-assemblies as much as I can. One of the issues, like with this model, you can't do the driver as a sub-assembly, as I learned. If you put together this part and don't put his torso in, put together this part, you can't fit his torso in there. You have to cut his spine in order to fit his torso in there. I was like assembling in little like 5-minute spurts, and so I did like step 2 and then step 3. You can't do if step 2 is dry. I was like, this is stupid. And I found out the hard way. So slightly nervous. We're gonna have to go fast. Gotta go fast. Gotta go fast. Gotta go fast. Fast. Like, I might be able to keep this part separate from this part. I don't know. I'm scared. I am super nervous. think I may have bit off more than I can chew, and I'm gonna have to deal with it. As usual, I'm really bad at this. At going, yeah, I can. It's not a problem. I can paint all that. Be quick and easy, and then actually get into it and go, oh god, this is gonna take me 30 days. Well, you all will get to ride along with me because I'll be doing daily morning streams, and that's where I'm hoping to get the majority of the work done. Sorry to complain about volunteering, situation I put myself in. Alright, I think this is going to be the last thing for today, and then I'm going to bugger off and enjoy my day off. Appreciate that. Appreciate the faith. Alright, so we painted that bit white, so I want to see how it looks in comparison to the part that we painted over the silver, just as a thought experiment. Where did I put my brush? My army painter brush disappeared on me. I probably didn't. Down. Yep, there it is. It probably fell on the floor. There we go. So I think it definitely feels like it works better over this white. This wasn't the most perfect white panel I've ever painted, but you get to see how that pools a little bit better, and like you can move that to create shadow. See, that looks a lot better than that, in my opinion. It's a little too bright. It's washing it out a little bit, but over that white looks a lot better. So now I'm thinking one of the hardest parts on those models is going to be getting a nice flat white coat on those panels. Thinking about it, I do this panel as white. I might go kind of hardcore on the sub-assemblies, like not put together massive portions of this guy, so I can airbrush that white. You get a nice, very smooth white coat. And this one, if I paint this panel white, that means this whole thing here is white. Interesting. Alright. It's like, I might just not even, like, clean all the pieces and paint them individually. I don't even know. That might be going a little too far down the rabbit hole. But there it is. Thank you all, Spottiest and Thomas, for hanging out with me on my Experimentation Friday. And we will start assembly on those models, and we'll see how much assembly I actually do. Come this weekend. I think both are supposed to arrive tomorrow. And we'll see if I can steal any time over the weekend to do some assembly. And then Monday, I have Monday off of my real job, and I might just say, hey, I'm gonna put in like a work day, but do painting. Not ideal. I kind of wanted to take the day off and relax, so I'm gonna go do that today. Let's see. Anyone's on. I'm sure Alchemist might be on. Maybe. No. Doesn't look like Alchemist is on. But who is? Let's see. We got Mini Maddie's. Let's go check out Mini Maddie's and go hang out with him for a little bit. Oh, he said he wasn't going to stream on Fridays anymore. Fair enough. 4-day work week. Gotta do it. I fully believe in it. So, thanks for the update. Let's go hang out with Mini Maddie's for a little bit. And I will see you guys on Monday. I think that's gonna have to be the plan, at least a couple hours on Monday. So, see you guys. Rain!